The highest profile politician killed in Pakistan since the assassination of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto 3 years ago. Tell us what this assassination means.
Well, it's spread a feeling of panic in Pakistan, because if the governor of a province is not safe, and the biggest province in Pakistan, then who is safe? And it seems as if the government is incapable of protecting the people if it can't protect its governor. So there is a sort of feeling of demoralization, a feeling of fear amongst a lot of politicians.
Well, does this mean that that extremists have become more mainstream, the fact that he was so vulnerable?
No, what it has meant is that since 2004, when Pakistan started military operations in Pakistan's tribal areas, extremism has grown in Pakistan. The more military operations we have had, the more militants have grown. And unfortunately, this war on terror has created more radicalization in our society. So when people feel that this is a war against Islam, which is the general perception amongst the masses, then there are a lot of people willing to defend the religion.
Mr. Khan, this is Elliot Spitzer. When you talk about the war on terror, are you talking about the war on terror that is being waged by the Pakistani government or by the U.S. government in conjunction with the Pakistani government?
Well, Pakistan Army is considered as a proxy army of the U.S. It is on the behest of U.S. that Pakistan Army went into Pakistan's tribal areas. And we had no suicide bombings in Pakistan. We had sectarian militants in Pakistan, but they were controlled by our establishment. Right now, the army is being attacked. More Pakistani soldiers have been killed than the US soldiers killed in Afghanistan and Iraq put together. How many civilians we have killed, we have no accurate account. But the feeling that Pakistan is fighting someone else's war, bombing its own people, and at the same time we have drone attacks. And in the last year, there have been record amount of drone attacks. So all this has radicalized the young people, especially the Pashtun. Remember, the people who are being killed on both sides of the border in Afghanistan and Pakistan are the Pashtuns. And so that's where the major radicalization has taken place.
So if I understand you properly, Mr. Khan, what you are suggesting is that the U.S. policies, certainly as they are having an impact within Pakistan, are being counterproductive, because what you're saying is that the U.S. policies are actually generating the outbreak, and we are strengthening the extremist forces within Pakistan.
Absolutely, they're counterproductive. If they were productive, you should have seen a decline in terrorism. There should have been less terrorists. There should have been less groups. At the moment, 140,000 Pakistani soldiers are stuck in our tribal areas. And there's a military operation. The moment they come back, the militants come back. There is, if anything, things are getting worse.
What would you have the U.S. do? What would be an appropriate policy from your point of view?
Well, for a start, when has aerial bombardment been a good way of fighting terrorists? And remember, the militants are living in villages with civilians. This is not an army being fought. It's guerrillas who are hiding with the civilians. Now, the more collateral damage done, all that it does, it benefits the militants. U.S. and Afghanistan, each year the military actions have gone up. The more U.S. operations have increased, forces have increased. But is this producing results? Are the people of Afghanistan or the people in Pakistan's tribal area, are they with the US or are they with the militants? Fighting terrorism is to win the hearts and minds of people. If you lose the hearts and minds war, you've lost the war. If the terrorists are perceived as terrorists by the people from who they are operating from, then you're winning the war. If they are perceived as freedom fighters, you're losing the war. And I'm afraid this policy of one-dimensional policy of bombardment, drone attacks, military operations, they are being counterproductive. What should be done is that military operations should be part of a political settlement. There should be dialogue. At the same time, military operation should only aid that political settlement. At the moment, we are just seeing a one-dimensional military policy, and it's not succeeding. In fact, Pakistan is imploding. This country is going down. I mean, this country has taken more casualties. We have had over 500 bomb blasts the previous year. Last year, almost the same amount. Record amount of suicide attacks. About $40–50 billion the economy has suffered. And the increased radicalization of our society, as you saw this assassination today of the governor. So, I mean, things are just getting worse for this country. And I think that there needs to be a change of strategy. This is not a successful strategy.
Well, Mr. Khan, what would a successful strategy look like?
For me, it should be talking to all the stakeholders. There should be an immediate ceasefire. You can't have dialogue and at the same time military action. Unfortunately, this policy is dictated by the security personnel, by the generals. It's not a civilian-backed or political-backed policy in Afghanistan. The key issue is Afghanistan. If you have peace in Afghanistan, if you can have a ceasefire, get people around the table, talk about when there's an exit strategy, maybe have Muslim forces, peacekeeping forces, to have a government of consensus, it is the only way to go about in Afghanistan. The current policy could just go on and on. On 9/11, the vast majority of people in Pakistan were standing shoulder to shoulder with the United States. In my opinion, the biggest mistake made by the US was that they declared a war on terror. These were criminals who conducted those terrorist acts, and that's how they should have been dealt with. But this insane policy of how do you fight a war on terror with armies? There are no armies they are fighting against. This is to win. As I repeat again, you have to win the battle for hearts and minds. And I'm afraid this policy of one-dimensional policy of bombardment, drone attacks, military operations, they are being counterproductive. What should be done is that military operations should be part of a political settlement. There should be dialogue. At the same time, military operation should only aid that political settlement. At the moment, we are just seeing a one-dimensional military policy, and it's not succeeding. In fact, Pakistan is imploding. This country is going down. I mean, this country has taken more casualties. We have had over 500 bomb blasts the previous year. Last year, almost the same amount. Record amount of suicide attacks. About $40–50 billion the economy has suffered. And the increased radicalization of our society, as you saw this assassination today of the governor. So, I mean, things are just getting worse for this country. And I think that there needs to be a change of strategy. This is not a successful strategy.